Hey, everybody, this segment is being recorded in early December. He is Bob Starkey. He's actually a Dyer councilman, but just here representing his own views. My name's Jim Deedlow, and we're just going to do a little 20-minute segment. If you want to call in, it's actually being recorded live on 219-845-1100. Bob Starkey, a Republican, your party's representatives passed redistricting, which would basically take our first district as kind of a rectangle and make it a banana, which reaches from here to Wabash, Indiana, 2 hours and 43 minutes away from here, just to the center of Wabash, right. Not to the end of Wabash. It's about 3 hours from one end to the other. How do you feel about this?
Well, the first thing I will say is when I saw this map come out, your first thought is, of course, if they're going to redistrict, you need to go south and east because there's nothing to the west, so you have to go south and east to pick up the votes you're looking for. Now, what I will say is folks can go to Google, and you can just Google Indiana congressional maps from the last 50 years. And Congressional District 1 has had so many different shapes. It only looks somewhat rectangleish now. I think it was the 80s or the 90s where we had a block here. We had a separation, then another block 30, 40 miles to the east. We've had it go all the way down to, I think...
north of Lafayette.
Yes. So, I mean, we've had it go all over. So to say that this would be the first time that, we're looking at this map and it looks gerrymandered. It's, there's one... There really is one political thing that elected officials get to do, and that is draw or redraw ward lines for congressional districts, congressional wards, all the way down to your precincts. And so it is a political process. You can debate whether or not you should do it mid-census like we're doing now. I don't see a problem with it, but yeah, I mean it does. It looks like a banana, but there's nowhere you got to go with it. You have to go down, and you have to go east.
Well, I mean, if it's for political reasons,
right,
which is what the representatives are saying,
right?
I thought this was not going to go through, and
we'll find out today if it fully goes through.
So just so everybody understands, here we are recording this on the morning that they're going to vote on it in the
December
Senate.
8th.
So you will hear this after. So we'll analyze it, and these things will apply, but we won't know the answer. But there's a couple of things. First of all, I was so surprised that Mitch Daniels came out and put a major op-ed into the Washington Post, basically saying this is wrong, don't do it mid-census, and that there's going to be a major backlash if we do this.
I would agree with the possibility of the second part of that, but the first part, I don't quite, I don't buy you can't do this mid-census. And here, I'll use this analogy for you. You're the sports guy, football. Halfway through a football game, you find out that the ball is deflated. Do you continue playing the game and just say, we'll fix it for the next game, or do you stop the game and you fix it? The thought with redistricting is that in other states, the way they have counted their population and the way they have then appropriated congressional seats to that is diluting the votes in place, diluting the voices of Hoosiers. Meaning, you'll have some place like Rhode Island that is sending all Democrat votes there, or all Democrat congressmen, not because the entire state votes Democrat, they vote 35, 36, 37% Republican, but because that's how they've counted their population centers to then award congressional seats, and that's how they've drawn the map. So nationally, the thought is that the voices of Hoosiers are being diluted by other states and the appropriation process. So in my estimation, changing this now is saying, look, the ball's deflated. We're not going to wait until the end of the game, meaning the next census, because I think one of the arguments of Mitch Daniels and some of the other state senators and state representatives was, hey, look, we're going to redraw the maps anyways, and we do that every 10 years, so let's just do that then. And it's like, well, that's a fair point, but I think it's more prudent to, if you see there's an issue, you should fix it. And I think that's what they're doing. Now, whether or not the Senate does that today, it's a much thinner margin in the Senate to do that. I think there was I think Governor Braun if I can pull this up here, Governor Braun was even again making promises to Trump over the weekend that he's got this. But that Senate's going to be tough.
Well, there's so much in what you just had to say, but President Trump came out this weekend and he named 3 Indiana senators, 2 of them from right here, who have been swatted.
Yeah.
And I was just like, dude, these guys have already gone through enough. I know Dan Durnell and Randy Niemeyer, both those are the 2 senators Rick Niemeyer. Yeah. I'm sorry, Rick Niemeyer. I always do that, and I apologize. But Rick Niemeyer, and these guys have gone through hell with this swatting thing, and now the president's the pressure. There could not be more pressure than when President Trump is pulling the whole mob on you to make sure you vote the right way today, because they both said they were, I don't know what's going to do. What's going to happen?
That's where I think, so he, to comment on your tweet, he tweeted out, I want to say the 9 senators, but 3 of them had been swatted. And I spoke with State Senator Dan Durnell for a little bit about a week or so ago, I think after the swatting incident. And I still think, and maybe this is splitting hairs, I do think we need to determine what swatting actually is, because there's a difference between actually being swatted, meaning people come to your house, knock down the door, drag you out, like what happened with, I believe it was Senator Good down in Indianapolis, versus there was a call and law enforcement gets in touch with the person and is able to determine that it's a hoax, and so nobody's busting down doors.
Well, what you're doing right now is, I think, what a lot of Republicans have been forced to do, which is kind of say, I may in the back of I don't know where you stand, but I may in the back of my head kind of agree with Daniels, but I can't turn away all of the the MAGA people that are listening right now, honestly, and may call in. And so I think that Indiana Republicans like Julie Altoff and like Hal Slager and like you have to kind of just like walk this tightrope. And it's difficult, because if President Trump is calling for it and he's calling Dan Durnell and Rick Niemeyer out by name on a Sunday night and they've already been swatted, I mean, if you just look at it from a strictly safety for your family, I mean, if they go down there and they vote against this and then it doesn't pass, I mean, what does that do to your family? Honestly, you got to think about that. And look at here. Julie Altoff voted for it. Hal Slager voted for it. I mean, at this point, you probably have more protection for your family by voting yes, because the people that have been coming after this are that.
Well, and some of that,
you got to think about that.
So there's that, but then I also look at you look at someone like a Hal Slager, who now has a primary opponent. You have groups like Turning Point coming in saying, we're going to spend 8 figures primarying everybody who votes no. So how much of it is a safety concern? How much of it is some like electoral preservation? Versus, hey, I'm voting yes or no because this is what I believe.
Jim Weezer sat in the seat that you're sitting in right now, and I'm like, well, Weezer, what about like Julie Altoff and Hal Slager? If they vote for this, whoever primaries them, they're both kind of close district. They could get Democratic, could come up, and I think Slager I think he changed the district, which was smart. But
Well, see, and
that
that's
was a smart
where
thing. Yeah.
you change the district to make it better for you. I think she said we got 2 callers.
All right, we'll get to them in a second.
But that is an amazing point. Is when you redistrict, you shore up your district to make it better for you. Well, how then can you vote no? Other than hanging your hat on, I'm going to vote no because it's not the right time. I did it when you're allowed to do it, which is every census. But it is that. And,
you're tap dancing right now, like every Republican has to do that right now, because you have a lot of Republicans that are against this, and then you have a lot of Republicans that are for it.
Right.
And so you got to all right, well, here I realize this, but ultimately I'm for it or whatever. But Weezer said something that was interesting. He said, both Slager and Althoff, both those, doesn't matter how you draw them, there's still possibilities for Democrats.
Yeah,
they're purple.
Districts.
They may downstate give them cover and say, hey, you don't have to vote for this because we know that some Democrat will come up and will use this against you over and over.
Well,
and that's what's going to happen because Althoff
Senator
and Slager.
Senator Donnell is in a very purple district. Dan's worked very hard for a lot of times. This isn't the he's a good, but
nobody works harder than him.
Dan works very well. I don't even want to say across the aisle. He just works for the people. He does a good job. But he also again, it's not just whether or not it's right or wrong as much as we think it should be. You have to think about all the other implications. So he's thinking about the safety of his family with
that's
the swatting,
number one.
electability. And it's he lives in a purple district, and is every mailer for the next 9 months just going to be coming from those the Mervan coffers? Because that was one reason why Republicans never really put someone strong up against Visklosky, because we knew we could never beat Visklosky. But the issue is when those campaign war chests open up, it affects everybody down ballot. And I think that's one of the big things that is going around in places like Lake County, some of the other counties where it's not blood red like in 88 of the 92 counties. It's purple or it's blue. And Republicans really have to think, if we want to continue to represent places, people like Durnell, they've got a lot to weigh.
No, that's wrong. I think that in a weird way, the more that people go toward Governor Braun and Trump and the MAGA side, I think it actually strengthens the Republican hold on Indiana, because you could draw these districts where, I don't know, I looked at that thing and I'm like, there's zero chance of now they're going to put up a good fight. Because
they are.
According to Weezer, he goes, dude, I don't care what people are saying right now. They're all going to fold. And I did not agree with them. And I'm like, what do you mean they're all going to fold? We just read Mitch Daniels' a piece in the Washington Post. He's giving a lot of people cover. He goes, you watch. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
By the way, you can go to the Weezer podcast and listen to it anytime on Apple or Spotify. So in the end, here we are before the vote. What do you think is going to happen today?
Dead air. That's what people want to hear on the radio. I think it is going to pass, and I think it's going to be narrow. I mean, first off, there's much fewer senators, and the margin is very slim. I think it's going to pass because I think at the end of the day, there's going to be some folks that vote no. Some of the Republicans, for the purposes of this, I'm going to say we don't really care about the Democrat state senators because they're a foregone no. But it's the 9 or 10 Republican
and
state
two
senators.
of them are here being called out by President Trump. We're on the eve. This is a historic moment here in terms of how does Indiana send our people to the House? I'm with you on one part of this.
It'll be, because not only has he tweeted, but I also know for a fact that these senators have been on several conference calls with the president.
So
There's enormous pressure on these guys to do this.
So I'm with you about one thing. When you're in charge, you're in charge. The Democrats are all like, oh, and even Mitch Daniels is like kind of siding with them on this thing. And I'm like, well, it all makes sense. But in the end, when you're in charge, you're in charge. I mean, you can do whatever the hell you want. And you got to remember that. That's the implications of voting.
Yeah.
It's like they're in charge. They can do whatever they want. We're in charge. We can do whatever we want. And I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing.
When I heard that Mitch Daniels came out with an op-ed, what'd you say, Washington Post or Wall Street, whatever it was.
It was a Post.
My first thought was, the amount of change that has happened in Lake County in the last 8-12 years. I don't know what weight an op-ed from Mitch Daniels is going to carry with any of the elected officials that are in trouble that now have to worry about this.
Amen. I mean,
and that's not to say anything, bad or negative or disparaging about Mitch Daniels. I don't know that is that really going to make anything float?
You know what? I tell the story a couple months. He doesn't talk to any media.
Right.
And, I'm like, come on, I'm doing this documentary about the flood. Mm-hmm. And, can you give us an interview? And I don't know how he said yes, but he did. And so I got to go down there and hang out with him. And he's the same guy. You know what I mean? He's just very calculated, especially talking to the media.
Yeah.
Now, when he talks sports, which is all we really talk together about, he's very much a sports guy. He's very animated and into it, but if you start getting close to any issue, he just pulls back. He doesn't want to be in. He doesn't want to be quoted. He doesn't want anything. And I could feel that, and I didn't push it there. I didn't ask him for that side of what he's doing. But I agree with you. He hasn't been in office for, 9 years? And, 13 years. Because it was Pence, then it was Holcomb for 8. Yeah, two Holcomb. So, hey, do you want to call it a day here? Or you want to take some calls?
Do we have any, or did they leave us?
All right,
we've got a few.
Lines are full.
Yeah.
Hey, you're on the air. How are you?
Hey, Bob, good morning.
Morning.
I appreciate you standing up for the citizens of Dyer, not only on the train and the boondoggle, but also on this redistricting. I think it's time for change. I have a feeling that if Bob Starkey doesn't get elected the next term, he's still going to have to go to work the next day. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
It's easy to be Mitch Daniels when you're fat and happy and to put something out there like that when you're really not going to be hurting should something occur opposite your opinion. So, Bob, I appreciate what you do. Jed, before you make fun of Chuck, take a glance down at that belly button of yours trying to escape.
Hey, man, takes one to know one.
Fat ass.
Is that an FCC violation? I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
But now I just picture callers just calling in, saying that, and hanging up.
Fat ass. Hey, you're on the air. How are you?
Homeboy, how you doing? Hey, how's that brush doing I bought for you?
It's still sitting there. I'm pretty sure I've never used it.
Still sitting there, virgin as can be, baby. I can't even believe it. Hey, listen, here's the deal. First of all, regarding Mitch Daniels, he's just mad Trump didn't tap him for a cabinet position. I'll stop right there. He didn't get picked. He's mad. So he's going to sit down making his $1.1 million at Purdue with his feet on a desk, riding a cycle around in the summertime, blah, blah, effing blah. Now, by the way, the two swattings, they didn't get swatted, Jimmy. No SWAT team showed up. They got a call in advance, said, hey, because you don't think the Highland police and the other police have those guys' cell numbers in their phone? Of course they do. They go, hey, is anything going on down there? Nah, okay, we'll send somebody by just in case. They didn't get swatted, Jimmy. And if they did, they're men enough to answer the door and go, hey, they're not going to ride their bike out the back door and run away. Okay, they're good. Now, The reason we're in this situation is because in 2020, the census was fraudulent by the deep state because you don't have 17 mistakes go through, and every single one of them was against the Republicans. What's the odds of a coin toss going 17 heads in a row? It doesn't exist. The Democrats cheated with the census. They admitted it, and we're making corrections for it. It's that simple, Jimmy. And don't act like people from MAGA, we worship Trump. We don't like everything he does. But when it comes down to making a choice, either going with the guy or against him, we know what against means. That means for Democrats. Democrats haven't done a thing in this country to help anybody but themselves. I give you Exhibit A, Somalia, Minnesota. Not working out so well, is it, Jimmy?
Hey, I appreciate
you are
your. I
fat,
know. I
by the
appreciate
way.
your
And
comments.
you
Thank
are
you.
fat.
Hey, the next caller.
I love that as the next caller comes on. I love that between you and Chuck, I am the biggest guy here, and no one's called me fat today. So this has been fantastic.
Hey, you're on the air. What are you doing?
Well, I'm just thinking about some of the comments made by Bob. And, Bob, you've got a right to your opinion. And I've heard it probably half a dozen times in the last week because they keep replaying the same programs all the time. But what I'm kind of wondering is the Republican Party has been the majority party downstate for at least 20 years. So this is not just the first time that there's been a redistrict or the opportunity to redistrict after the census. So it just kind of makes me wonder, have the Republicans, are they admitting that they've gotten it wrong for the last 20 plus years? Or are they actually just saying now that we want to secure our numbers so badly that we have to incorporate, a quarter of the state? It just seems like that's bad precedent for either party to try to do a redistrict when it's not after the census, like what the past policy has been. And I just kind of wonder what happens if things go haywire sometime in the future, and the Democrats try to do the same thing.
You're not wrong on that. So let's fast forward 30 years, and for whatever reason, and we don't need to take calls on this, but for whatever reason, 80 of the 92 counties are now purple. Democrats are taking over, and in 30 years, they now have a supermajority in Indiana, and they can draw it as they like. And they draw this pinwheel out of Marion County that goes from Marion County up to Lake County, and now we've got, population 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 congressional seats in Indiana that are all true blue. Nobody's ever going to, no Republican will ever win. That was 100% a real possibility, and I agree with you in that. Yeah, I mean that's a complete possibility.
It's a bad precedent to set.
Where I started with the precedent setting was I was with that until I heard, and I just repeated that football analogy. When if you zoom out of Indiana and you look at the country as a whole, and you look at what voices are being represented where, I do think it is a way that that Hoosier voices are being diluted. But here's my point with it: if you're going to fix it or change it or whatever verbiage you want to use, if you're going to redraw those lines in 4 years, well, not 4 years, 5 years, because you'll do it in 30 and then redistrict in 31. What's the difference if you do it then or now when it could impact things now? That would be the argument. But I do agree with you. It when the tables turn, just be prepared for that.
But the difference is that the Republicans just approved the districting 4 years ago, and now they're saying because it doesn't suit their need at this particular moment, now they're going to try to do something that is not not common practice, and we can't worry about. The other point is we can't worry about what's going on in the other states because we don't elect the officials in the other states. We elect officials in our state.
It's
let
true.
them deal with their issues, just like when the state attorney tried sticking his nose in the business of what was going on with some legislative act in Colorado a couple years ago.
Now,
that wasn't his business to stick his nose in there either.
right here's a point that maybe get me in trouble with some of these Republican circles. They were using all of the states on the East Coast, and I just used one, Rhode Island, where I said, look, Rhode Island has all Democrat congressional, congressmen, but they vote like 40%, 40% Republican. Well, that's not really fair. And so that's part of the Indiana justification. Well, we need to do that. Well, if you look at that, look at how Indiana voted, statewide. It's really like 60-40. Well, only having 2 of the seats be Democrat, well, that's not really fair then, is it?
Wait a second. Rhode Island only has 2 seats.
Well, there you go. Democrat. What are you talking?
They only have 2 representatives.
Okay,
How can they split it up?
Well, you've got Rhode Island. You can go to...
No, but I mean, literally, if you have 2 and there's 40% Republican, maybe you get 1 and 1.
Well, then maybe you get 1 and 1. And
so are you saying that every state that is like majority Republican or majority Democrat should just be one color?
No, but
that sounds like what you're saying.
Well, that's the argument that's being used right now.
Well, are you saying that argument?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know.
Yeah, because, I mean, it is. Honestly,
because
I think I know who this caller is, and, he's a Democrat and you're a Republican, but from a media standpoint, what's going to happen here is that they're going to draw the banana district, and then they're going to each side – nationally is going to come in here and spend more money than you could ever imagine. The thing that got me last time was I was helping my nephew with his homework. He was in like 7th grade or something. And we're going through the Quizlet thing, and there would be 3 questions, and then there would be Frank Mervan's a loser from Jennifer Ruth Green. And then it would go 3 more, and it would be, Jennifer Ruth Green doesn't even live in this district. And I'm like, I just wanted to do the homework with the kid, and they spent so much money on this.
Well, that's what I said about the war chest. I mean,
it's going to happen, but your logic is if you're in charge of that state, you should have all your people that color.
Well, and
that's what you're saying.
And that's how it was set up on the Senate side until we had the 17th Amendment. The states decided who to send.
I know how that goes in the past, but I think that how do you feel about that? You're a Democrat. I mean, should Virginia, I think, is thinking of doing this, and they're going to offset everything that your side's trying to do. I mean, how do you feel, caller?
This is a counterbalance to California, so if everybody does that, that's what's going to happen. And I think California did it because Texas did.
What do you think, caller? Every state should be its majority color.
No, I think that the way it's going as far as the districting goes, it's just wrong because now you're going to get. I mean, at least California, from what I understand, they went to the people to find out about redistricting rather than just going ahead and toting the water for the party lines and trying to appease the guy in the front office. If you look at it, there's a moral issue here too. The people that live, 2 hours east of here don't have the same issues as we do in Whiting or Maryville or Lowell or anything like that. It's just wrong on all kinds of levels.
All right. Hey, thanks for your call. So really, when you're saying about disenfranchising people, you say, if you go up and you take a satellite view and, voters in Indiana are being disenfranchised. How? Well, I mean,
only on a national level.
Only on a national level, because if Indiana's like 43 or 44% Democratic, if you go all 9, what have? I mean, do they are they disenfranchised?
Oh, I know it.
It doesn't matter what level you take
such
it at.
Such a complex topic because, and like I said, I think it did start with Texas, and then California did their Prop 50, where they did go to the voters of California, and they said, "Hey, do you want us to redraw the map, have Democrats redraw the map as opposed to just some outside firm?" And then Indiana's going to do it. You said was Virginia was one, West Virginia, one of the Virginias was going to do that. And yeah, at the end of the day, then every state that has a majority big enough to do that will probably be forced to do that. Yeah, either at the behest of Trump for the Republican states or out of preservation from the other ones.
I'll bet. I mean, I'm all in that they're going to pass it in Indiana. I mean, we're going to have a banana district, and I'm going to Muncie over the holidays, and I'm going to go to Wabash, and I'm going to see how long it takes to drive all the way there.
But this, I think this is the real question that people need to, and the caller made a great point that it just sets a bad precedent to do it in between the census. Because if the census were last year and that's how they would draw it now. So the question isn't whether or not they should redraw maps to make it favorable to whomever they want. Is now the time to do it, or should you wait?
Now, the question is it okay in this current atmosphere to just admit that it's all about power?
It is.
It's all about grabbing as much power as you can, and it's so entertaining. This podcast was recorded live on the radio, AM 1230, WJOB on 104.7 FM. He's Bob Starkey. I'm Jim Deedlow. It's Chuck Pullen.